I mean, some of these stocks are still quite hesitant. We've had quite a knee jerk to the reopening. We've had different variants come. We've had the government potentially sometimes talking back when reopening is going to happen. I think when feet hit the floor and we start to see the public going back out again with confidence, we'll start to see the true numbers start to come through. I think what also needs to be incorporated is just the level of pent-up demand that there is in the economy, that there's been, lots of savings over the last 18 months that are yet to be spent. And it's the travel, the leisure, the restaurant, the shopping, the personal care are all likely to come out of that very positively.
There's a lot of hesitation, obviously, around travel and leisure bookings at the moment, just because I think there's a lack of visibility and clarity on the reopening programme. Again, just to come back to this, where do you think there is value or opportunity in those segments? Would you be buying the pub operators or maybe the airline stocks, the discount stocks over the full cost travel companies? Where do you think the most opportunity lies?
Sure. I think when it comes to airlines, especially, the difficulty that we have is that other countries haven't kept a pace with the UK when it comes to the vaccine programme. So while ours are a lot higher, we also need to make sure that the countries that we're going to also have, are starting to progress along that. Especially if you look at Southern Europe now, a lot of those countries are wholly dependent on tourism. They want to get open pretty quickly. So when we come to the airline stocks, I mean, one way of looking at this is that the traditional way of walking into a travel agent has completely been disintermediated now. A lot of those companies have gone. So the companies that are in the digital sphere will come back out of this crisis even stronger. The likes of Booking.com in the US, Amadeus, European, listed in Spain, will be incredibly strong. Airlines have never been that much of a good investment longer term. There aren't many barriers to entry to that. But companies that have excellent network effects like Ryanair, like EasyJet, should start to come back from this very strongly. In what are the flagship carriers, the worry I would have is that business travel might not come back as strongly, and that tends to be where they make a large proportion of their profits.
Randeep, everyone's got a line in inflation, and you're not dissimilar from that as well. So what's your view on this debate?
I think at the moment, let's hold off. But of course, we were going to see inflation. You are anniversarying very, very, very low numbers. We have pent-up demand coming through. It is the first crisis globally where incomes have not collapsed due to the size of government programs and the speed at which they were administered. Inflation was always going to happen. Let's see if it's cyclical or structural. When government furlough programs begin to end in the second half, or especially the fourth quarter of this year, we'll get a truer picture of what inflation looks like. And for me, when I look out, the structural parts of deflation, energy costs still continue to fall, work at home now will be a deflationary factor, they all still remain relevant.
But in terms of, let's go down the line that inflation is transient as well, and the Fed is spot on with its analysis over the medium to long term as well. Which stocks and sectors should we be looking at the most?
Well, you'd want to look at growth sectors. If we're likely to see a lot of indebtedness going forward and governments and industry needing to pay off debt, where can we guarantee growth? Well, the government's given us the best opportunity in what has been these new green deals and alignment to Paris goals. That is 3 decades of guaranteed growth that we're likely to see. And to give you some numbers as an example, the UK are going to have to spend £1.5 trillion between now and 2050 to hit those goals. The European Union will need to spend 10 trillion euros in order to hit those goals. And these countries have legislated these Paris goals into local law. They have to follow them. So when it comes to green power, when it comes to green energy, when it comes to the circular economy, we are guaranteed 3 decades where investments will need to be pumped in. So focusing your portfolios that way on companies like Ørsted, Brookfield Renewable Energy, EDPR in Portugal, these companies are going to be mandated and see the investment start to come through.